This panel is predominantly about online synchronization. We've got 5 big questions. We're going to go through them, and then we'll probably just sort of talk around those points. If you have any questions, we can just go through them at the end. Or if you don't understand anything we're saying, just, again, ask at the end. That'd be great. We're going to introduce, everyone's going to introduce themselves, because they can do a much better job than I can do that. And then we'll get stuck in. So, Emma Rose.
What about you first?
You all know. Mark, do music supervision, sync stuff. This is my 4th panel. That's it.
Okay. Hi, I'm Emma Rose Isely. I am the Senior Creative and Licensing Manager at All Media Music Group in Los Angeles, California, specifically Calabasas. And we have a music supervision division and a sync licensing pitching division. And yeah, very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, see a lot of familiar faces. My name is Nick Keenan. I run the music department at a global advertising agency called VML Y&R. We work on things like New Balance, Wendy's, Sky Vodka, and a bunch of other fun and exciting clients. I'm excited just to be here with you guys. So at the end, we're going to do questions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Don't be shy. I feel like the session this morning was very shy.
It was early, that's why. Okay, Cabrea.
That's true, it was early.
Cabrea, you're up.
Hi, I'm Cabrea Casey. I'm from Downtown Music Publishing. I'm a sync manager there. I work with our catalog and pitch it for opportunities in film, TV, and ads, including online. And I work with a catalog of writers such as John Lennon Estate, Sturgill Simpson, Motley Crue, Santa Gold, among a lot of others.
Thank you.
And hi, guys. I'm Sarah Tembeckjian. I'm a music supervisor, music producer at mcgarrybowen, which is an ad agency headquartered in New York, and that's where I work. It's an international agency, and some of our clients include Amex, Audible, an Amazon company, Crayola, Verizon, United Airlines got me here today. So, mad respect.
Do you have
United.
to say that?
That is not a plug. That is the truth.
Is that a client?
Yeah.
Did you eat Subway?
No, and Subway is one of our clients, but I have not indulged in a lovely, delicious Subway sandwich yet in my time
Doing
here
great.
in Nova Scotia.
It's
Although I
different.
do know
It's
that there
different.
is a Subway here.
It's great.
That's me.
Okay.
And I do music for them, so that's why I'm here.
So we're going to get stuck in. It says, scale versus substance. Can massive scale transactions trump high value syncs? So I think online is such a crazy place with sync and licensing. There's so many things going on, and there's some money. There's often not a lot of money, but I guess, do you want to talk about that quickly, Emma Rose? Like what the areas in online that do you focus on as a company trying to find in for placements?
I would say we don't. I mean, there's new nowadays like Facebook and YouTube Red and Amazon Prime Originals. They're still licensing for all media, including TV, which is Netflix, for example. We work on a lot of Netflix series, and we pitch for them specifically. And that's still, in my experience, still very much the same and similar, if not the exact same quote requests as other TV productions. I wouldn't say we seek those out any differently than we do our other TV shows. Mm-hmm. As far as smaller online placements, I think we would probably pitch only our one-stop catalog that we can clear for lower fees. Mm-hmm. And for that, because they're not clearing for TV broadcast or additional, if it's online only, then it will be a lower fee because they're not using it as broadly as they would in other programs. Does that answer the question?
That's great, thank you. And Sarah, do you want to talk about that in terms of with online and the complications with things like with paid media or no paid media, and do you think bands can make money by just doing these tiny little sync placements?
You mean if they can stay afloat, like kind of?
Yeah, if it's like a viable, if there's a viable thing to be done there.
Yeah, well, I would say that unfortunately, the budgets in the online space are not as robust as they are in the in broadcast and also in like theatrical. So, you know, it's kind of like you have to understand that that's the landscape that we're all dealing with, and just being able to go with the flow and being flexible and, you know, being able to clear your music for lower range budgets is just going to make you more appealing from a music supervisor's perspective if we need it in a pinch. And generally, you know, we're not up here trying to exploit artists and squeeze as much as we can out of for as little as we can. Like usually what we're offering is as much as we can confidently offer from our overall budget. And if there's any savings, then we're always going to toss it back into the artist's pocket. So I would say that, you know, it's really important to understand that that's the landscape that we're all facing, and to have your music placed like frequently in lower budget contexts is for sure can definitely be a good niche for starting artists, or maybe an artist with a little bit of following to kind of get their foot in the door and get their understanding of sync a little bit more fine-tuned. So that
it can add up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like if an artist hooks it up for something, I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, I have $1,000, and are just super easy to work with, you're gonna think of them when you have the bigger budget stuff too.
Yeah.
Because that's just, you know, you're gonna work with the people that you trust and have had positive experiences with. So
Yeah.
I think it's all related.
Yeah.
And we've seen too, they'll say like, we have 3,000 all in for this spot, but we're going to see if we can get you in 2 or 3 other spots the same season of a series if it's online only, and they will do it. And supervisors are great about doing that. And, you know, we'll look out, or I'm working on this lower budget series, but I'm also doing Grey's Anatomy. So if you help me out here, I'm going to see what I can do for you in this other show and really keep you in mind. And I think that's, again, with what we're dealing with now in the new
People mean
online
it
space.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all good people.
Yeah. And in my experience, you never really have to worry about setting a precedent as well, because sometimes ads, like the media and everything, will be a lot different in the terms. And if you license something for one fee, it doesn't necessarily mean that the supervisor will always hold you to that fee. Again, they're going to try and help you out and get you as much as possible every time. And so you're never going to put yourself in a box if you do something that's a little bit lower fee that you kind of believe in and you think is good content and works with what you're trying to do and your message. I don't think it is ever a bad thing.
And I think in my experience, there's so much content being made out there. There's so many smaller. I mean, I've done tons of little tiny things where. Sometimes it's like $500. Sometimes it's $1,000. It depends, entirely on the media and the terms, and if there's going to be any paid media. If they're going to actually pay to promote it, that's usually how you can. Because if there's like an editorial video, or like we've done like online spots for like Converse and people like that, and sometimes those will just be editorial pieces, so they can often get those. The fees are lower, but then once paid media gets involved, that's usually how things, and especially online is such a huge platform now for advertising, so there's definitely income there. But yeah, I'll carry on.
I'd say one
Go
more
on,
thing.
please.
I was going to say that I think the one time we're a little bit more conservative in pitching at a lower fee range it would depend on the media. I mean, the type of spot. So if it was an ad, and it's one of our artists' like more sync-friendly songs, an ad or a promo or trailer, we might hold back on pitching it, because a lot of times with ads or promos and trailers, if your song is tied closely to a campaign and used to sell someone else's product, then when we get another brief in that's for a different ad, so like right now we have a song that's in AT&T. Well, if like someone else wanted to use it for a trailer, but they said, could you just let us know if this is running in any other campaigns right now? And we lost out on the other spot. Luckily, the AT&T spot is amazing, so we're like, that's what the song's going to get and the best. But that'd be something where we'd really consider the fee if it were lower, because it may limit other potential future uses for a song. I hope that was on target. On staying on track.
Definitely. And do you think, for emerging artists, do you think does anyone here think it's worth them exploring areas with Instagram and like trying to get in touch with people about them using their music to help kind of give them exposure? Do you think that's something? I mean, do you think it's obviously quite a grey area in terms of money and licensing? But do you think is something that people should do or would do?
You mean like influencers?
Yeah, influencers. Those cool
game.
people. Mm-hmm.
I think aren't artists themselves influencers? I feel like maybe use your own like platform to reach that. Like artists should be. I think artists should be influencers more than influencers should be influencers. Honestly, I think.
What are they
yeah.
influencing?
Yeah.
Hot take.
Really.
It's a hot, steamy take. Yeah.
What? Come again? Yeah. No, I just
Steaming.
Picking up the energy here. Yeah.
the giddy.
What?
I just said the giddy energy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, can you repeat the question?
Can we start over?
Can you use it in a sentence? No, I was saying, like, do you think is it worth bands kind of going after, say you're an emerging artist, do you think it's worth them, like, going after influencers and being like, hey, you can use my music for free because you've got, like, 10,000?
So like someone that has a makeup YouTube.
Yeah, like 16, people in the
account,
tens
and
of
then-
thousands.
Yeah, and they need music.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think if you own all your rights and your master and your publishing and there's no other writers that are maybe on that song or material, then absolutely. The promotion is always good. And if you're thinking about it as every single one of those followers is exposure for you, then yes. But if there's multiple writers on the song, you would probably need to get permission for them. And the promotion is going to mean a little bit less to them if they're not the artist. So they're not going to be as incentivized to allow something like that, except for the fact that they want to keep writing with the artist. So it depends.
Yeah, I would just jump in and say that that's an excellent point because if you're writing and co-writing and you have your rights kind of divided up, you can't be just free-wielding the music like it's 100% owned and rep by you. So being respectful to those that you collaborate with is key. With that said, I think that that it is smart. Like if you play, Nick said earlier in a panel, like play smart, not work smart, not hard. And I think that's like a great kind of nugget to take away with essentially and apply that to almost everything because, work smart, not hard. In this context, working smart is making sure that all your music is button up and that and that you're partnering with the right influencers and that you're not just like making it available to anyone and everyone. I mean, if you have someone that, like there's an influencer that you follow that you really are passionate about, for example, and you would love to see your music used in their content, and where all the rights are, and you can offer it up confidently and no one's like signed secretly to some publisher or label that you don't know about, then absolutely like take advantage of that and then repost it. Like the online world is so vast and there's so much content, but the point is like to stay afloat you kind of have to participate in that content creation windmill. So collaborating and potentially even offering, being reciprocal and thinking of how that's going to come back to you if you can offer the same type of boost to someone later on. It's about deal making in that way. So it's about being smart.
Mm-hmm. And do you think is it worth people kind of doing these kind of doing them for free, like not kind of taking any money for that? What's your view on that?
Yeah, totally.
When you're starting out.
Absolutely, yeah. I can say for myself. I mean, I'm working on 2 projects outside of my regular job. For free, like music supervising to small indie films, just because I need to get exposure in that space and I want to, and that's just one example of someone doing it in my context. I mean, you could be an artist, or you could be like a sound engineer, for example, like cranking during the day, and then you're working on an artist project at night, and you need to get your foot in the door somehow. You need to give yourself some kind of platform. Being flexible and recognizing that, trust needs to be built over time, and the money will come. It's the reality.
Yeah, I think it's I think people think with sync it's about landing that one ad, and as we were talking about, Nick was saying, it's a miracle if you do land anything, let alone a commercial. So I think we tell a lot of the bands I've worked with, I tell them it's like we're on this journey, and it's just a case of landing lots of different things and really not being, not saying no to all the different things and kind of just going with the flow. Especially with TV, I think there's so many tiny little uses which can have great, like MTV and those kind of shows where they're very music heavy. They post online what they use. They make playlists. So there's definitely but the fees are very average. So you have to kind of weigh those things up. And the supervisor are using a lot of music, so they're often just like flying, and they'll use like the same songs, like they'll use like they'll license the songs for the entire season, so they'll use the songs multiple times. So there's definitely scope there in terms of like getting more exposure. But do you think is there still good money in online, like for an emerging artist, like what in terms of fee levels, like what is it? Does it just depend entirely on Cabrea? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think, I'm seeing in advertising more and more online-only ads for bigger brands, and those absolutely do have money behind them, as they probably should. And with that, too, adding broadcast and more media platforms adds to the fee, but for us working on the publishing side, if something's online, that means it's a lot easier to find than if it's broadcast. And I think more and more we're factoring that into our pricing and kind of raising fees in that sense too, because now when someone comes to us, it's like, oh, well, it's an online-only ad, but it also has paid media behind it, and everyone can Google it. So that means other brands are less likely to use it. Mm-hmm. So as Emma Rose was saying, you need to factor that into the pricing and realize it's going to take the song off the table for other brands, especially while it's airing and maybe for a year or so afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would say though that you could if I were to play devil's advocate from the music supervisor's perspective, that could also be an incentive to try to compromise on the fee and land a little bit, depending on your budget. If we're working on a tight budget, if we have a flexible budget, then absolutely. But that's when kind of partnerships and thinking outside the box really come into play. Like how can we help promote the artist and help support their new record coming out, or help support a charity that they are really passionate about. If we're not able to if we're not able to meet the quote and we need to negotiate. So the online space gives us a lot more flexibility to play, which as opposed to broadcast, which is just pretty much straight up. Yeah,
that's a great point, because for us, we'll say okay, so you have this amount of money. Well, we'd really love, in that case, then this quote is contingent upon you including the artist's Facebook page, Twitter handle, Instagram handle, the release date of their record, maybe, probably not, but and we want you to tag the song in YouTube, and we want this on-screen chyron, maybe, to tie it in and make it more worth it for our client. It's great exposure for them, again, being online, because then they can tweet it out and put it on their Instagram and do all of that, and that really adds. Just getting a sync in general, being able to say, this brand loves my song and featured it, is really, really impactful for growing your fan base. And you can tie that back to getting more streams and more downloads. And I think that's a really great compromise as far as maybe if the fee is a little bit less, could you offer a little more exposure? And I think that's what Mark was touching on with MTV as well. Sometimes the fees aren't as high as other shows, but they'll do the song ID, because we supervised an MTV show, and we did that for a lot of the artists, where we really fought to get them the on-screen chyron and tie it back to everybody has an MTV artist page, all of that. So I think if your end goal is to grow your fan base, it may be worth it to take a little less money and to make the sync happen.
Mm-hmm. And on the flip side of that, have you or I guess for the rights holders, or rep agents, have you ever had syncs with specifically maybe with online where the artist has just tried to bury the use, like they don't want anyone to know about it?
Yeah, you can certainly not promote it if you don't want to, you know, and
It's like
just
very uncool.
pass on the car. I think we've had, if the money's not good and they're not particularly passionate about the project and they'd rather not, I think it depends again on the type, because if it's an ad, it may limit where you can all pitch the songs. So they may say, let's hold out for a different ad if this isn't something. Or we've had something, it depends on the subject matter, where it was a great use, tons of money, but it was a trailer where it was a film where the man had cheated on his wife and she finds out, and it's like the whole trailer was about like, I'm having this huge affair and all my other friends are having affairs on their wives and like cheating on their wives, you know? And he was like,
Whoa, man.
I don't know about that, you know?
Rough.
And so then we had to go
Yeah.
and be like, he says no. And then they were like, here's more money. And he's like, do we want a new house? Yes. Okay, we do. You know,
He
so
did it?
Wow.
he did do it.
Wow, look at
But
that.
it's like that, all this stuff factors into it again of like, if it's worth it. And he absolutely did not promote it.
I can
The
imagine.
use, but
Or
Still-
sometimes, like you could, if you are down, if the real kind of creative vision is supported by the music itself and less so about the artist's name and brand, like the artist brand, then sometimes I've been in positions where the artist will just strip their name from it, like and just go as a under a different moniker, but still contributing like their artist perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, vocabulary, Chiron, it's been
I'm
used a
sorry?
few times. On-screen credits, like a la MTV Days, song title and the quotes. I mean, it could be anything really. I mean, the format can change. It's no longer just
Yeah.
limited
But like
to
when
the
you see a
MTV
commercial,
structure, but
and it tells you the song.
that's what Chiron means.
thank you.
Just quick
Thank
vocab
you.
break.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, I have a story about it where we had an artist placed in a cat food commercial, and obviously it's not the coolest thing.
Friskies.
It was Friskies.
I knew it.
It was Friskies cat food, and he was an independent artist from Ireland. It was great money for him. I think it helped, paid for his album recording and lots of different things, but he was very much about, because he was like an independent artist, like did all of his own stuff. So he was very kind of cool about it all. And then he definitely did everything he could to make sure that placement really didn't go anywhere. He like spent a lot of time like trying to remove his name from things because he didn't want anyone to know about it.
Yeah,
But-
you're a dog person, so
yeah, if you're a dog person, that's
it's
it.
fine.
I have an example that's the other way around of that, where
Dog
We-
food.
it's actually diapers.
Oh, same shit.
Free
Put my name on that.
Oh. He's here all weekend.
But we had writers that we were working with a hit song of theirs, and this diaper brand really wanted to use it, and they were not about it, and they kept throwing more money at them, and they just really didn't. They thought it was very uncool, and they didn't want to do it. And then actually we ended up getting the brand to donate another fee to a charity of their choice, which kind of did back them in the corner because they're like, well, now we can't say no because we're taking money from this charity. But they ended up, the spot aired, they did it, and they loved the spot, and we ended up renewing it a bunch of times, and it was actually this really sweet, heartfelt commercial, and they just couldn't get over the brand. And then once they did it, they're like, oh yeah, this isn't that bad.
Love that.
There you go.
Just to tie this back in, the work smart, not hard thing, sync is, if what we're trying to exemplify here is that there, if you get a bite on some of your music, there's a way to figure out how to make it go through. If if you're not comfortable with the spot or something like that, but if you need the financial support, there's a way. That's that's just another way to look at it.
Have you had that with Nick? Have you had that happen to you with artists well, I guess you did in terms of, do the brand, do they want the artist to be kind of promoting it and then they don't, and do you ever run into that?
No,
Does it
and
matter to the brand?
well, it definitely matters to some brands. Others are just indifferent, and it's just me being proactive and being like, oh, here's the cherry on top. This artist that we utilized their music for the spot happens to have 50,000 followers on Instagram, and look, they retweeted it. Other times it's a non-entity to a brand, unfortunately, because they're like, we just want to sell more burgers. As far as the flip side of that, I think it just comes down to knowing when to pitch artist stuff and knowing when to maybe just stick with production library music. There's a home and there's a place for all kinds of music. In indie artists, emerging artists, big artists, production music, original music, all that. And I think it's just like connecting the dots in the right way so that you don't have, although it's not the biggest deal in the world, so that you don't have an artist like your Irish guy who's like, I really don't want that to be my name attached to it.
Oh.
But then even then I'd say to someone like him, like, dude, when's the last time someone gave you $40,000 for your music?
Right. Yeah,
Make a funny tweet about it and actually push it out and be like, hey, although I'm a dog person, here's a cat food hat.
I was a bit surprised, but
Well, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, completely.
That's what I would say to the artists.
And what's great, what I love about Sync, sorry, I have to, but I think it's great that it's a song that you've already created, you've already done the work, so you literally sign a piece of paper, and the check cashes.
Totally.
So it's something, or doesn't.
It might
I would
bounce.
hope it does.
not real till the
but
checks.
it's something that, like he said, like
Nothing's
40 grand,
confirmed.
but it's something you've already created and put out there that you're not doing extra work to create a new thing and incurring new costs to do it.
Yeah.
So it is really beneficial in that way, and that's what I love about it is it's not something that you necessarily have to create
Yeah, you're not
for
spending
something new.
time.
Like when our clients send us their music, then we're like, great, I need all this information, and your job is done here. Just answer when I call you, because it's usually good news.
Don't be a stranger.
We were just having the conversation outside with an artist and about like the ethos of I don't want to license my music to a chicken sandwich spot because I'm a vegetarian, or cigarettes or alcohol for my ethos, and I totally love and respect that. But an artist out there just brought up a great point that like they were saying, I can be flexible on that because the money that it would allow me to think back to my creative community and get my message out is probably going to supersede whatever damage my music would be in this spot.
Yeah, totally.
Which I thought was so like smart and something that I'm definitely going to be pushing out to artists the next time someone says, I don't want to take $50,000 for a commercial.
And you're probably one of many, many spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Wendy's is going to have 10 spots going at once, maybe, or
Yep.
X amount of spots. And it's not going to be like, oh, I immediately recognize your song, and aren't you a vegetarian?
Yeah, yeah.
I think, like, whoa,
gotta be deep
did
in
you
the
just sell
labyrinth.
out for this? I think it's like,
Yeah.
you'd have to really push it
Yeah.
for people to get that, I think.
Yeah, it comes down to the whole selling out.
Like, we
kind of
have,
thing.
I think I mentioned this, but we have an AT&T spot running.
You did mention that.
I did. Great money. They renewed it. I've never seen it. I saw it.
nice.
I saw it. They sent me the link, but every month we're like, hey, so have you seen it on YouTube or anything? And we're like, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
checks cash, so
it's the best things. You get paid and it doesn't
All
even
right.
air.
yeah.
I had that. Yeah, I've had that a couple
You know?
of where
You're
yeah.
like, oh man, this huge ad. And you're like,
But then you feel bad, like
Does
if
it
the
exist?
artist, for the artist, they want to, often they want that sync, so,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had it a few times where we've been paid and then, or whoever's been paid and then
Yeah.
it doesn't air or just disappears. Especially, with ads, things get canned
that's true.
all the time, and
Yeah.
it's just like a cost.
Yeah.
Have you guys done that where someone's actually paid out the fee and then just be like, this is dead? That happened to us.
Last week.
Recently, we were so excited. We had this giant computer company license this amazing cover song, and we're like, oh, this is so great. As soon as it's out, artist is going to release a song. It's going to tie into the
Oh,
campaign, building it all out. Did the license, cash a check. This is dead now. You guys can close the file. It's never gonna see the light of day. And we're like, well, I'm just gonna cry into this wad of cash, I guess.
I'm gonna go cry in my bathtub of cash.
Poor me.
Yeah.
Dumb and Dumber style.
Yeah. That does.
It's sad though, because we were really excited about but then we're like, well, all right,
Yeah.
we'll get over it.
Will you?
So, I haven't yet, obviously. I'm working on it.
That's not a typical thing that happens,
It's not.
guys.
It's only happened a few
So
times.
you know.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of an example. So do you think emerging artists should dive into the production music world? And if so, what are your kind of tips? Because I know there's a ton of libraries. I think there's a lot of libraries now where you can just kind of it's like a free for all in terms of you can submit, and then it's just in there in their vortex. But have you guys
I've
worked
seen
in
new
that?
like subscription where you upload your music and people who want to license the music pay like $10 a month to use this service.
Yeah.
And then you get paid out each time you use your song, I guess.
I think that happens with like Twitch and like online streaming.
Because it seems like if you have that capability and you're trying to exhaust all your income streams from your music, that might be a really great way. I mean, we have clients who want us to pitch their music that will come to us and say, I'm so excited to be emailing you. I have 100 instrumentals, and that's just scratching the surface of everything I'm going to send to you. And I'm like, this isn't the best platform for you to work with us, or for us, we're not the right partners for you. But I would definitely recommend that if that's something that they're interested in, is like an online library. Or are you guys using those for your campaigns? Are you ever using like the online? I mean, we have our go-to music libraries for supervision projects. That it's more about like the trust thing, that we go to the same libraries because we know them and love them and enjoy working with them. So I don't think we would really venture out into the new space yet.
Cabrea, do any of your artists do that? Or you don't know?
Well, our artists don't do it because they're signed to
yeah,
exclusive deals with us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they're not also doing production music.
But I do have artists that are very interested in writing for sync, and as we've talked about, Sarah brought it up, they write a lot of music that isn't necessarily right for their artist project, and they'll write one-stop music for us that's specifically designed for sync, and we give them feedback, and we don't have a production library, but we use those as our kind of one-stop catalog, and we pitch those out for them. But yeah,
Same as we do that too as well. Or like someone's a producer and they're like, I want to wear all these different hats. I want to team up with this female artist, and I want to team up with this hip hop artist, and I want to team up with this singer-songwriter. And he's really successful doing that. Just having, sharing the splits on all different, I think as many irons as you can get out in the fire, if that's something that you're interested in, and co-writing, If you don't necessarily want to have 10 artist projects yourself, or you don't want to spend your time doing that, then get with other artists who are the face of their own brand that you can share in the master or composition splits if you do co-writing and they're,
I would say I'm just thinking about this from the artist perspective and from those that I've talked to who contribute to libraries but also want to kind of get out there and be artists themselves. It just understand that it's an exhausting undertaking because you're essentially tacking on another job onto your creative vision. So, it's something that you have to be, I think it's fair to test if that's something that appeals to you, if you have all the tools, if you, have recording capabilities and are able to create tracks like cues that, are 90 seconds to 2 minutes long, roughly, is usually the kind of the length. If you have the capability to create those and pump them out, then it's worth experimenting and seeing if that workflow works for you. I've also interacted with artists that find that it's very detrimental to their creative process to break outside of their creative head and headspace, and try to create, music that is separate from their artistic identities. And ultimately it could be more detrimental to their trajectory than someone who's just like a prolific writer, and it's all dependent on the individual, and there's no right answer. So it definitely is a really interesting kind of space to put yourself and to start wearing many hats. It will give you insight into how a lot of other folks operate, whether they're co-writers, whether they're producers. If you are able to navigate through that space yourself, and it'll inform your process, and it definitely will, if you're doing it successfully, it'll be lucrative. It could be lucrative. It could add to your monetization of your craft. But yeah, that's.
Yeah,
Just know that it's going to take time. Is where I started with that.
Takes time.
I think that it totally depends on what you want your artist brand to be, like what you want your music to mean to you as a career, because we have some clients who are, I'm a musician, I'm working on my one record, then I'm going to tour with my record and I'm going to release it, and hopefully I'll get some syncs doing exactly what I want to do with my music artistically, and I'm not going into a different headspace like Sarah said. Then we have other artists who are like, I'm a mom. I still love making music, and I have an amazing voice, and I'm really successful at sync. I have my artist project, but I'm not going on tour, and I pay all my bills from my money that I do for sync. So maybe I didn't love writing this song, but it pays for my house and my family, and I love that. And I also still get to do my own artist project. So I think it totally depends on what you're interested in and your different income streams that you have, and the time. It takes a lot of time to write and record and all that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we're going to open it up to some questions. If anyone's got anything burning,
Whoop.
keep them coming. They can be about pretty much anything.
Yeah. Ventured away from online.
Hi, how are you doing? My name is Jacques. I make music under the moniker The Mobius Stripper. I also play bass for Susan Explodes. I'm in the process of making sure all of Susan Explodes' songs are registered with SOCAN and that lovely stuff. It's somewhat of a collaborative process, but mostly the guitarist is the primary songwriter. So I was wondering if it would be a better idea to have him as the sole songwriter when he registers that way, or it would be an easier just to figure it out in contracts that, someone has the ability to clear it, in one stop, like you've been saying. So just like maybe the pros and cons of just making sure that all rolls into one songwriter at the point of registration, or it would be acceptable to have that split occur and then just have one contact person say, yeah, you can use it.
I would recommend when you're registering the copyright to absolutely break it down by all the writers and make sure everyone's getting their percentage. And then you can have an agreement where there's one approval party for sync deals and make sure everyone signs that agreement. And then that way it can still be one stop, but everyone still is getting the percentage of the song that they rightfully should have. Yeah. I would recommend doing it that way.
Absolutely. And one more thing on that, I say we tell our clients, don't ever leave the room that you're writing in without having your splits sorted. Because as awkward as it may be to be like, hey, I think I wrote half that song. Do you also agree? Down the road, it's a little iffier, or you're like, well, did you really write any of the lyrics? Because I felt like I did that. We say don't leave the room without your splits sorted and just have that conversation and get better about having that conversation, because then it's all clear and you're like, here's what we discussed in the room. This is the song splits. Now we can just register it, and it keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh.
Hi. What are some trends that you guys are seeing more of right now, like some things that you're getting asked for quite frequently? And what tags are you guys using, like when searching for music?
As far as genre, lyrics, is that what you mean by trends?
Yeah, like genre-wise.
Hip hop. I mean, I feel like everyone saw. I mean, we just from being in the cultural know, right? You know that that's just what's popping right now.
She has an amazing one-stop hip-hop catalog.
Easy.
Sorry.
You got a plug
Thanks
up
for the
here on
shout-out.
stage.
I got you, girl. I got you.
No,
My
but
cosign.
that's and then of course I think a lot of people saw the Forbes article and it took that to be the legitimizer that hip hop is the most dominant genre in Western Hemisphere. Although maybe watch out hip hop for K-pop. Yeah, I mean I don't know. I feel like a lot of clients are like really interested in it right now because that's kind of where the culture is, and that's hip hop is culture, and it's not just a genre of music, and it's a culture incubator and creator. So I think that's what's really interesting towards brands right now. And there's a way to do it, and there's the way not to do it. But I don't know, what else are you guys seeing?
I talked about female empowerment in the last panel, like bombastic claps in your face, we are women, that type of movement geared towards
Good thing or bad
ads
thing?
and great.
Good thing.
Go ladies. I think, I think it's still very much the claps and snaps and with urban elements, I think, has been really popular for us. Like he said, it's very accessible, but very cool. Keyword swagger.
Driving.
I know.
We nearly
we
got all the
hate
way
that.
through the panel without
I
saying the
can't.
word
I
swagger.
can't. It's like we want swagger, cool, edgy.
Yeah, but they don't mean edgy.
futuristic,
They really do
vibey.
not. They do not mean edgy in the slightest.
No. Yeah. They mean
And you,
uptown
Cabrea,
funk.
and you.
I would say I think Mark touched upon this in one of the other panels, but vocalese as well, especially for advertising, is a big thing, which means like oohs and ahs and non-lyrical vocals, because it doesn't compete with any voiceover. It's also like a universal language. It brings a human element to the song, but without clashing with anything that's going on.
Non-lyrical.
Yeah, I would jump on that too because I've been working on a number of campaigns recently that are focused on more of an international kind of perspective. And for me, the way that I'm choosing to interpret that on the initially is just to revert it back to kind of the hip hop angle, challenging the creatives internally before it even breaks to client, challenging the creatives to listen to different beat structures, like different like tracks with different beats, to styles of beat emphasis. Hip hop being super specific, but also very diverse, like recognizable, but have a wide variety of different styles. And then from the international perspective, I mean, I'm focused right now on like Nigerian hip hop producers and dance musicians, so that's just something that I'm personally interested in, and we're gonna hang out later. So
We're not friends.
We're not friends.
It's purely work. Only work.
We even asked for like worldly music. They want a global appeal.
Yeah, it's usually
Global appeal is so like.
In Latin.
or
They
you
like it
even
to be
like
worldly.
it can be like nonsense lyric, like as in
and like bongos. I don't know.
like it can be
Yeah.
like skippy doo,
Yes.
but not
And
that.
then also, I think just Latin music or Latin influenced music right now is massive.
So hot right now.
The past two songs of the summer,
So hot right
I
now.
would say, were Despacito and now the Cardi B, I Like It Like That, which has a Fania track in it. I think Latin influence is becoming a lot bigger and more mainstream pop, which means advertisers want to use it.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Next question.
Thanks. Hi, guys. I had a question about something you said near the end about artists who, myself, I tend to have a very slow process. I care a lot about the songs that I write for myself in my project, but I can also just whip out stuff quickly that I don't care that much about, that I feel not necessarily attached to. And in terms of like production and stuff, it's usually pretty much ready to go. How would I say that if I was pitching myself? How do you want to see an artist come to you, say, I have these projects, like this is my brand, this is me. I'm open to sync, but I can also do these little things. Like, do you want to see examples? Do you want to see?
There's nothing wrong with just telling whoever you're pitching that to.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Are
here's
you
my
talking-
artist stuff,
yeah.
and here's my production, and composition stuff. Really.
Are you pit like for sync reps? If you're looking for sync rep, I'd say like here's 3 to 5 songs from my artist project, and here's my top 3 to 5 that I've written with sync in mind. And as long you said I don't really care about, as long as it sounds like you still really care about it.
Yeah, it's just I guess
We know
I-
what you mean.
In terms of time, right? In terms of the commitment to a composition.
Yeah.
When decisions are made quickly, because you're confident with that level, or that even the you're saying 90 seconds generally, a short composition, something without a lot of
Even less sometimes.
yeah.
I mean, we like one of the catalogs I have. Sometimes there's all these tracks in there that the artist has written, and they're called things like Samsung pitch or telecoms pitch, or but they're not pitches. It's just him writing stuff. So occasionally, and there are occasions where those songs are pitched, especially if there's very low budget, and we can just do those, be very flexible with those.
If you're like, hey, so just checking on that Samsung ad that you promised me. Some of our clients will be like, and this could be perfect for blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and manage that expectation right now, girl. We'll do our best. Name it
Just
what
call
you think
it-
it should
call
be
it a track.
named.
If anything, it's probably going to hurt you to call it Samsung idea.
Yeah.
Because chances are, and no disrespect, like you probably have no idea what Samsung wants compared to the decision makers along the way.
Samsung doesn't even know what they want when you're writing that
This
song.
is true.
So,
So true.
yeah, I'd say name it, Name it something.
Name it whatever you
We
want.
Because
have
what
something-
happens if it's up for an Apple pitch, right?
Yeah.
You know, like,
Oh yeah.
just title it something that you would title anything.
yourself in the foot.
Doodad
It's
number
actually,
one, you know?
like harder for us to pitch songs like that. Like we have one artist who has a few instrumentals where it's named like Vegas and whatever. I'm like, this doesn't remind me of Vegas, and I don't know this song. It's lyric, you know. So it's name it something if you have.
And we can just rename
Also,
it.
just having brand names in your lyrics sometimes too can be. I
Yeah.
don't know. I have
Yeah.
writers be like, "Oh, I said Coca-Cola in the song, so like pitch it to them." No.
It's so
If
service
they want
level.
a song about Coca-Cola, they're gonna have it created for them.
Yeah.
And now Sprite will not use.
Not use that. Have that for Tropicana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
Is there one final question?
Anything else?
That's it. Okay. Well,
Thank you.
very much for
Yay.
attending
Thank you,
and
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.